Hello and welcome to my channel. I'm Simon Henry, if you've not seen me before or heard me. If you've looked at my channel, you'll see that I often do patterns for really quite complicated crochet things. But today, by request, I actually thought we'd go right back to the beginning, and if you've never crocheted a stitch before but would love to, then this video is for you. Now, I've watched a lot of how to crochet videos, and it seems to me that they want to keep the air of kind of mystery and how complicated it is and all that kind of stuff. You know, holding your hook incorrectly and, you know, tensioning your yarn, all kinds of stuff that simply just makes it far more complicated than it needs to be. So today I'm going to show you a really simple way to learn how to crochet. So we're going to start with some chunky or bulky, you say in the US, weight yarn, a crochet hook, so 5.5 or 6mm crochet hook, just a standard crochet hook like this, nothing fancy, no fancy handles or anything like that, and hopefully by the end of this quite short tutorial, you'll think, okay, I can do that, let's go a bit further. So we're going to start with a slip knot, which is what we usually do. So all we're going to do is take the short tail over the top, and then we're just going to bring the loop through the middle and make a slip knot. Simple, simple, simple. Let's do that again for you. Yarn this over the top and just pull it through into a loop. Insert your hook and pull up the slip knot. Now, the first thing to look at is how we're going to tension the yarn. In other words, how we're going to keep the same tension on the yarn at all times so that the stitches always remain even. Now again, I've seen people do all kinds of things. They wrap it around their finger, they weave it in and out of their fingers and all kinds of stuff. The very simplest way of doing it when you're starting is just to lay the yarn across your hands and hold it. That's it. That's all you need to do. So what I'm doing is holding this yarn in between these three fingers like this. Then I'm using my thumb and my first finger to hold on to the yarn here. That's it. That's all you need to do. Hold the hook in this hand, and this little flat piece here is specifically to hold it. Just lay it across your hand and hold it between your thumb and your first finger, leaving these fingers free. So this is the hold. We're holding the yarn in these three fingers. We're holding the hook between your thumb and your first finger on this hand, leaving these three fingers free. So the first stitch that we're going to learn, which is the chain stitch, I'm going to put up here somewhere. I'm going to write what the abbreviations for all these stitches are so you can start to understand crochet patterns. So I'm going to hold on to this yarn here. I'm holding on to the tail of the yarn. Do you remember these three fingers that we kept loose here? I'm holding on to them. And this finger, which is your middle finger, I'm going to use just to stop this knot from slipping backwards and forwards. If you do this and try and pull it through, you're not going to be able to do that, whereas if you hold on to that with this finger and then you wrap the stitch round. Now these loose fingers, these two fingers here, just hold on to the bottom of that knot and pull that stitch through. See? So with this finger, hold it, wrap your yarn round, grab that with these two fingers and pull it through. Yarn round and pull it through. So I'm holding the stitch with this finger while I'm wrapping the yarn round, or I'm actually taking the hook underneath that yarn, if you can see. And then I'm going to hold the chains with these two fingers and pull it through. Hold on to your loop, wrap it round and pull it through. Hold on to your loop, wrap it round and pull it through. Now we've gone past where we need to hold this tail in place. We can now just hold everything in this hand. So I've got the yarn over those three fingers, and I'm holding the chains that I've done in these two fingers. This finger is holding on to the loop, and now we can go quite quickly. Round, 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 round. Now keep everything fairly relaxed so these stitches aren't too tight, and you'll see that everything pulls through really smoothly, and this is the movement that we need to be making. And it's really gentle, your hands are nice and relaxed. I've just pulled that loop through, look. What you'll also find with crochet, which is quite nice, there's no such thing as a drop stitch like there is in knitting. If we've decided here that we've either done too many chains or we want to go back to something that we've missed, we just pull the yarn and it pulls the stitches undone. You can also, if you need to count these chain stitches, you can pop your hook through one of the chains there and just undo back to that point. And that's the first part, which is a chain stitch. So practice that over and over again. Just sit and do miles and miles of it until you're comfortable and until you've got yourself into a really nice rhythm. Now we're going to use these chain stitches to start to create stitches that's going to go in this direction. So this effectively is the foundation. If you're a knitter, this would be the equivalent to the cast on, if you like, row. So what we're going to do first is we're going to look at a single crochet, which is written SC. Slightly confusing if you're in the UK. This will be called a DC or a double crochet, but as most patterns now are written in American abbreviations, we're going to stick to that. So this is called a single crochet, and you can see these chain stitches along here. I've got it with the V's facing up towards me. We're going to miss this first one past the hook, and we're going to insert the hook into that next V. We're just going to push it in. So we're going to grab this yarn at the back and we're going to pull it through that loop. So we've ended up now with 2 loops on our hook. Let me show you that again. So we're going to miss this first one and we're going to insert the hook into that second V. We're going to grab a loop, and all we do is to do that is just to twist our hand to push that yarn down slightly. I'm keeping hold of this one and we're going to pull that through. So now we've got 2 loops on our hook. So we're going to, as if we were doing the chain as before, we're going to wrap that yarn around our hook, hold on to the bottom here with these 2 fingers, and we're going to pull that yarn through those 2 loops on the hook. That's 1 single crochet made. We're going to insert the hook into the next V along that row. We're going to pull a loop through. We're going to hold this with your finger, remember, just to keep it from sliding off the hook. We're going to wrap that yarn around again and we're going to pull that through. That's 2 single crochets made. So we're going to insert the hook into the next V, pull through a loop, yarn round and through both. Into the V-stitch or chain, pull up a loop and draw it through. And you can carry on like that. You can get into a nice rhythm with it. And however many chains you've got left, we're going to go all the way to the end, and we're going to be doing 1 single crochet into every chain that we've got. Doesn't matter how many, we're not making anything at the moment. I'm going to do later on a tutorial on how to read a crochet pattern. You'll see we've got 1 chain stitch left, so I'm going to insert the hook into that. This one might be a little bit tighter because that was the first one that we started with, and pull it through, and there we have our first row of crochet. So now what we need to do is come back in this direction, so we're going to turn the work round. And most patterns or people who crochet will tell you at this point to do 1 chain, which is perfectly acceptable, but that actually makes it, when we're going up this way, as you'll get a little bit of a wobbly edge. So we're going to learn right from the start how to make a straight edge. So what we're going to do is that loop around the hook, we're just going to pull it up ever so slightly, and we're just going to twist it round on itself. Let me show you that again. We're going to pull it up ever so slightly. I'm holding on to it with this finger as always, and we're just going to twist the hook round. So we've made a little twist in that stitch there. That will take the place of the usual 1 chain that people do at the beginning of the row of single crochets. Now if we look on the top here, you can see this V here, and there's a little hole, can you see there, directly underneath that V. That's where we're going to insert the hook for the first stitch. If we were going to do the chain 1, like most people say, we would be inserting it into this stitch. We're going to miss that first one, but we're going to do it this way because it's easier. And we're going to insert the hook. Can you see that V-stitch on top when you look straight down on it? We're going to insert the hook underneath there. So we're going through that V. We're going to pull through the loop, yarn round and pull it through for the first single crochet of that row. And you can see here's the next stitch here to go through. Can you see these little holes here? And when you go through, you'll see that there are 2 pieces of yarn on top of the hook, and it makes the V exactly like the chain that we looked at right at the beginning. So we're going to pull the yarn through, yarn round, and pull it through those 2 loops into the next, pull it through, yarn round, and through the 2 loops into the next, yarn round, and so on, exactly the same as we've done before. So all the time I'm holding on to the piece of work here. I'm holding this loop in place with this finger, and often what I do to keep this out of the way, as you can see, I just keep that between those 2 fingers, and it stops that from flopping about all over the place. So into the next stitch, pull up a loop, yarn round and pull it through both. Single crochets all across that row. Oops. Now remember, there my hook slipped out those loops there, so you can't drop a stitch. Just put your hook back through there and undo that. Into the stitch and pull it through, single crochet, single crochet, single crochet, and you can see here is the last one, single crochet. So we're going to do exactly the same now. We're going to turn. I'm going to pull up a tiny little bit, twist it round. I'm going to go into this first stitch. You can see the hole quite clearly there. So into that stitch, pull it through, single crochet. All the way across, get into a nice rhythm. So the thing is just to keep doing that row by row. Count the stitches as you go along to make sure you've got the same amount of stitches on each row. If you haven't, what you've probably done is missed one of these stitches. But at this stage that doesn't really matter. Just get used to the rhythm of working and holding the yarn nice and relaxed. You can see, because we did that little twist right at the beginning, you can see quite clearly we've got the hole there to insert the hook into, yarn round, single crochet. Also what this does, doing your edge like that, it makes this edge here, if we're going to work a long piece, it makes it really straight. So what we're going to do now, after you've done rows and rows of that, so you're really comfortable, we're going to do the second main stitch now, which is called a double crochet, written DC, and we're going to do the same, but we're going to just pull up that first loop just a little bit higher this time, and we're going to twist it round. So this time, rather than inserting the hook straight into that hole there, that first one, we're going to wrap a loop around the hook first, hold it with this finger, put your hook into that hole and draw up a loop exactly the same way as we did for the single crochet. Then we're going to wrap the yarn round and we're going to pull it through the first 2 loops on the hook only, wrap the yarn round and pull it through the final 2 loops. That's 1 double crochet done. So again, wrap your hook round into the hole, pull up a loop, yarn round through the first 2 loops, yarn round through the second 2 loops, round through the loop, pull it through, pull it through, yarn round into the hole, draw up a loop, that yarn split a little bit, So round the hook, into the stitch, draw up a loop, yarn round the hook, pull it through, yarn round the hook, pull it through, round the hook, into the stitch, draw up a loop, yarn round, pull it through the first two, yarn round, pull it through the second two. So keep going, get into a nice rhythm. You won't do this immediately, this will take you a little bit of time. Keep relaxed, don't tighten up. If everything gets a bit tight, you'll find it difficult to get your hook through those stitches. Again, you can count the stitches. And the last one, do you remember where we twisted that yarn? The last stitch is there. Oops. Turn the work. Draw up a loop a little bit and twist it. So another row of doubles. So we're going to go into, can you see these holes? Let me just show you those. Here, look, we've got a hole here, and one here, one here, one here, one here, one here. A lot of people say they get confused as to where to insert the hook, but when you look at it like that, it's really quite clear. So remember, draw up a little loop and twist it round. Round your hook into that first stitch, pull up a loop, through the first two loops and through the second two loops. Try and just get into a nice, gentle rhythm. If you watch what I'm doing with my fingers, you'll see this finger here is the one that's actually keeping control of these stitches. The yarn is always just through these fingers, these three fingers. Hold it nice and gently, nothing too tight. And you'll develop quite some speed after a little while. But nothing's spoiling, doesn't matter how fast you go. And the last one, can you remember where we twisted that stitch on the end? So we've done 2 rows of single crochets and we've done 2 rows of double crochets, and we started with chain. The vast majority of crochet patterns rely on chain stitches, single crochets and double crochets. Certainly beginner crochet patterns will do that. So practice, maybe in a row do a couple of rows of single crochets and then a couple of rows of double crochets, and just keep going, get nice and relaxed, nice and comfortable. Count your stitches to make sure you've got the same amount of stitches on every row, and by the time you've done that you can actually crochet. All you've got to do then is learn to follow a pattern, which is just a matter of reading the abbreviations. So hope you've enjoyed that. This was absolute beginners crochet. I'm going to come back in a few weeks and do an intermediate one, which is where we'll be showing you how to insert your hook into different parts of this to make different stitches. But for now, carry on practicing your chain stitch, your double crochets, and your single crochets. If you please like and subscribe, that really does help the channel out, and also then you'll be notified when the next part of this series of how to crochet is going to be out. So thank you for joining me very much. Happy crochet, love as always, and I'll see you soon.